This is Real Learning with Real People. These conversations are with real people. They're unscripted and they're designed to pull tidbits of information from people who are grinding right now to get the most out of their lives. With minimum amounts of editing and maximum authenticity, we hope to provide lessons that anybody will find effective, relatable, and entertaining. We seek to have guests that provide learning that's based on their life experiences. Some are chosen because of their experience as high performers in sport, business, or education, and other guests have been chosen because they have meaningful lessons to teach, and I want to make sure they have the platform to share them with the world. The language in these videos is sometimes mature, as I'm always encouraging guests to just be themselves. This is all part of making sure that we do our best to give you content that is both authentic and effective, and that you truly feel like you can utilize the real learning and connect with these real people. On Real Learning with Real People, we have up-and-coming Christian hip-hop artist Keane Carter Reaves, better known as K.Cartel. Keane combines gospel, hip-hop, and a unique learning perspective in order to spread impact to his listeners. His music truly transcends the Christian genre, though, and builds in great lessons that everyone can utilize. He has an attitude toward learning and performing where he takes risks, and it's really important to hear. His perspective on life that guides him towards being true and real about who he is help him create awesome songs that provide true meaning to everyone who hears them. After a quick sample of his song Christ Bars 3, we dive in with Keane.
Me no man, cause I serve me a God who is big and he's great, not a fake, that's a fact. The flesh should be weak, but I got me a spotter in spirit to put back the bar on the rack. Perfect in Christ, but with a price, so we cut no slack, yeah.
Keane, what's up?
How you doing, Ken? How you doing? Good morning.
Good morning, I'm doing good. How are you?
Man, I'm fine, man. Truly blessed, man. Truly blessed. Excited to be here.
Yeah, you're living in a different climate than I'm living in, man. You're in Miami.
Yeah.
And
hot 24/7.
Yeah, we're getting excited because we're just starting to get up to 15, 16 degrees Celsius every day.
So what is that in Fahrenheit?
That's
like
a good question. You know what? I'm not even gonna tell you exactly here by looking it up.
Okay, cool. I was gonna, because over there, like 15, 16, that's a low number. But you said Celsius. So, you know what I'm saying? So 50, see, nah, I can't do it, brother. Cannot do it. Listen, the lowest I'm willing to go is maybe like 62. You know?
That 3 degrees matters.
I'm saying, man, like it's let me tell you, because down here in the climate, man, because we're used to the warm and it gets hot, but we built like that. But when it gets cold, it feels good for maybe the first 3 or 4 days. and then it gets a little tedious. Like, all right, let's go back. I like the windy kind of weather, you know, the beach weather, like the wind blowing, not necessarily hot, but the sun out with a nice breeze. But when it get too cold, man, it's just not me. I get irritated.
We got wind. Huh? We got wind.
Oh yeah. Well, you got wind and you got chill. You know what I'm saying? So that the two mixed together, man, that could be a lot for Floridian, especially down here in Miami, like close to the Keys. Like we just used to the sun beaming, and that could get irritated too. But when it get too cold, man, you start to lose it.
I've recruited some kids from especially Florida. I've had some kids come up from Texas to play basketball in Canada for us, and this conversation happens. And then after that, I have to convince them to still come. So
I could imagine that.
Yeah.
I could imagine.
Because to give you an idea, like this is nice for, like, I'm going to go out in shorts today. And a t-shirt.
And 52 degree weather.
Yeah.
Nah.
we've been waiting for this because in the winter we go down to we'll get minus negative 30 Celsius. I'm gonna do the same thing I just did here too, because I don't even know what that is in Fahrenheit.
Right.
And yeah, so that's negative 22 Fahrenheit. No.
Yeah, man. I'm sorry. I don't see how. Nah. I to be honest, I don't even want to imagine it. Because I ain't never been in negative degree weather. I think the coldest thing I got in Miami is maybe like the low 50s, high 40s. So to be in negative, I don't even want to. What's the next subject? No, just playing. But that has to be freezing, man. I can only imagine.
It's cool. And you know what? I'm somebody who, like, I definitely, I don't know if there's anybody that prefers the cold ultimately to the heat,
Right.
but when it starts getting warmer, which is happening right now to us, in our opinion,
Mhm.
I get infinitely more, like, my mood goes up. I'm more productive. I'm
Wow.
better at being active, especially outside. Like, I just, all of a sudden, like, middle of January, I'm getting like one productive thing done a day.
Wow.
Middle of June, I'm getting like 20. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
you want something built outside? You want me to rake something?
Yeah,
Let's
let's
go for a
do it.
run. Let's write a book. Let's read a book.
Yeah,
We'll do everything.
definitely.
Okay, so that's usually just my generic intro question that we don't talk about for so long. But
Right.
I did the same thing with Justin Sewell when he was on, where it was like he's down there in Florida too, and that was a couple months ago now, and it was still infinitely warmer there.
Yeah, yeah. Infinitely. That's a
Yeah.
beautiful word. That's a beautiful word.
Okay, so let's start with what your framework for life now is like, and in my opinion, that is largely built in how you grew up. So I want to hear kind of about your siblings, your mom and dad, what your conditions were like living and growing up, and how that shaped you as a kid.
Yeah, man. Definitely. Yeah, so the kind of the foundation for me, I'm the only child. My my father has a son which would be my stepbrother, and we're actually 3 days and 3 years apart. But our relationship wasn't, you know what I'm saying? When we hit a certain age, we kind of, grew apart or whatever the case may be. Me being the little brother, so I would consider myself the only child just because I can count on both of my hands the amount of time that I seen him and really had a relationship with him. So for the most part, man, I grew up by myself, um, with a mother who is a believer, and my father. I I mean, I would say he says he believes. I don't know what that I don't know if you could be able to tell. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Not that
yeah.
we're supposed to, but his morals and the way he went about things was different. But I will say this, man. I grew up in a they love me to the best of their ability and to the best that they knew how, and that looked differently for both of my parents, right? So my mother was the more affectionate one. Baby, what's wrong? You can tell me about what's going on. Speak your mind. My pops was more to made sure I had everything I needed. Like when it came to him, I never went without, and I'm so grateful for that. You know what I'm saying? So and then it's a balance, right? Because you got your ups and you got your downs, and that's in anybody's life and with anybody's parents. So I grew up in a household where it could get toxic, very toxic with domestic issues. Just coming around. It's crazy stories. I'm pretty sure you heard crazy stories from everybody, but coming home to seeing my pops being put in the back of a police car a couple of times, getting phone calls from the county jail. When I'm just going about my day, or if I come home to the house being a wreck, whatever the case is, man. So we had our ups and our downs, and we got plenty of stories, but the whole thing is we getting through, and we've been getting through, and so yeah, my mother was a believer. I grew up going to church. I don't want to say I grew up in the church because I think it's a difference, right? Being in the church is being involved, and going to church is basically what it was for me, going, right? Because at that age, I didn't fully understand what was being taught.
Right.
But a foundation was laid that I was grateful for, and all I understood was that, man, look, there's a God out there. He's found in the person of Jesus, and He did this for your sins, and He resurrected, and He gives us a living hope. Whatever the case may be with that, and so that's where the foundation was laid. I like I said, I grew up an only child. Then I went to a K through 8th center called Coral Reef Montessori Academy, and it was a charter school.
Yeah.
So we actually like taught ourselves. Age we begin to teach ourselves, like go take lessons off the shelf, and based off the basic math that they gave us, we would use those principles in the lessons that we were doing. So that happened all the way until 7th grade, to where it was like a more regulated, or more I don't know what's the word to describe, more organized setting. Like,
Facilitated, like,
yeah,
yeah.
facilitated, yeah. Because like in middle school and high school, you have periods. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? You got 8 blocks or whatever the case is. At my school, it wasn't like that. You would spend like the first 4 hours doing work, then you have lunchtime, and then you spend the next 4 hours doing work. It wasn't math class, English class, science, physical therapy. It wasn't that. So I didn't really get introduced to that till my 7th and 8th grade year. And even that still wasn't like it would have been at any other regular middle school. So
Right.
that was that. I was into poetry. I did it. I wasn't the most athletic. Like I could be athletic, but I wasn't involved in sports. I think I did 1 season of flag football, and I think I did karate for a little
Not a lot
bit.
of money
But
in pro flag football.
yeah, right, exactly. At that, I was the center. You know what I'm saying? And my dad used to clown me because I grew up a big dude.
Yeah.
My dad used to clown me because when they would look for me to snap the ball, I was like in the cooler with a juice box, stuff like that. I was supposed to be on the field. You know what I'm saying? So we did a little bit of basketball, but I could play basketball, man. I'm for my size, man. I'm pretty good.
Yeah.
So after that, I went to an all-boys school, man. My freshman year of high school, it was called Young Men's Preparatory Academy, and it was supposed to be prep school for young men, and it was the total opposite. It's like they went to the roughest hoods in Miami and recruited all the kids, trying to make them young men, and it was just a setup for disaster, man. And I got stuff stolen. I got, what I'm saying, picked on. I could defend myself, but it was rough. It had its moments. You meet some good people. It just comes with the territory. So I did that for 2 years. My second year, man, I decided to get out and go to one of the schools, because I was making a commute. I was getting up at 4:00 in the morning to get ready, then go to a bus stop to catch the bus to the busway to catch the Metro Rail to the north end of Miami, the Coleman Center, and get off the bus and go catch another bus to get to school. And it was so funny because on my first day of school, my freshman year, I'd never forget it. We at Young Men's Preparatory, we had to dress up in a shirt and tie and a blazer outfit, right? So we were very distinct, very different. And with it being the first day of school, all the kids that catch the rail, you'd be surprised, like, because we all go to different schools, right? So some might be going to Booker T, some might be going to New World Arts, some might be going to whatever the case may be. And so like we like very distinct because we suit and tied up. And so I get to the Coleman station where I'm supposed to get off at, and the shuttle bus that takes us to school already took off. So we missed our bus. And I'm not from this end of Miami. So luckily I could identify like my classmates because of what they had on. And they knew their way around. Yeah. So we hopped on, this was like my first time on the real Metro bus, right? So we hopped on the 77. It dropped us off at the churches, and the school is like another 2-mile walk. Now, mind you, we in Miami. So it's like a good 92 degrees outside. I got a blazer on me with a shirt and tie. My armpits soaking wet, you know what I'm saying? Not only that, we had to walk the regular distance to the school. And the funny part about it was my parents were so protective that they was already at the school that morning. So like they sent me off so I could get the feel of what it's like to commute, because that was going to be my commute. And they were already there at the school wondering why I wasn't there yet. They thought I was trying to skip over first day or whatever the case is. But I'll never forget that day, man. That was my first day of freshman year, man. But yeah, so did Young Men's for 2 years. After Young Men's, I go to Robert Morgan Educational Center. It's a funny story, man. I met the lady who actually got me into the school. I met her at LA Fitness in a swimming pool class. And we was talking because she was teaching the class. Miss Sheck, God bless her. So I love Miss Sheck, man. Yeah. Like if she ever come across this video, Miss Sheck, I love you. We just had this conversation, and I was telling her the things that I was going through at the school I was at and how I didn't want to be there. And she was like, "Let me get your school ID and this, that, and the third." and she checked my record, she checked my background, and everything was great. And she was actually surprised, and she was like, man, I'm gonna do everything I can to get you in. She got me in. I went to Robert Morgan, man. I got on the drum line. What else? Well, that's kind of probably the biggest highlight. And yeah, man. So that's high school. Then I get out. I go to Miami-Dade College. I work my first job, which is landscaping. I done been through so many jobs, man. I landscape. I worked at Target. I worked at Chipotle. I done did some security. I worked at Parks and Recreation at Pinecrest Park. And right now I work for Sunrise Community. So I deal with individuals with disabilities. I work at a group home. And so that was my work journey. My father, one unique fact about my father was he was a DJ. So I grew up around music. Yeah. And so him always playing a DJ set in the house and mixing his records. And I remember being a little kid, man, with a t-shirt on, and he would like play in the mic, and I would admire that, and he'll point the mic down and let me talk in it, mic check, things of that nature, man. And I didn't know that those little things were going to be so essential to what I was going to be doing right now in my life, right? Yeah. It's just so funny how you get a glimpse of what's going to be, well, at least in my case. So, so both of my parents work for the post office. They have good government jobs, man. And we just a working class family. And then for myself, man, I just happen to be the one with the dream. You know what I'm saying? I happen to be the one with the dream, and the one with, I guess, the optimism and the excitement that kind of flesh that out. Yeah. So getting into that, when I got into college at Miami-Dade College, I linked back up with a friend that I met at Young Men's Preparatory. So how essential is that, right? Yeah. So I linked back up with him, and he starts living with his grandmother around the corner, Marshawn, and he has a garage with a computer and a mic, you know, and so and a little backdrop about the music, I was always good at writing. Maybe not math. I can't stand math. Same. Maybe not at math, but at writing, I was like, when it came to the writing portion of the FCAT, it was 4s and 5s. When it came to writing essays, my essays were always good. This is as a kid. Like I think I got a little science book for one of my first little science poems that I did way back when. So I always grew up a writer, and because my mother was how she was with relating with me and speaking with me and asking me questions, I could be able to articulate myself, man. And I think that played a great part in what I do now. You know, articulating my feelings, articulating what I'm going through, my testimony, whatever the case is. So yeah, man. So I go over to Marshawn's house. We there every day of the week. You know what I'm saying? I'm coming home 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. We don't even know what we doing, Ken. I'm telling you, like, all I know is that I'm putting words together. He's trying to figure out the FL Studios, and we taking beats off, ripping beats off of YouTube, and hey, play this and play that, and man. Yeah. And I was, and I'm just, because I want to be authentic, right? So we was doing drugs, man. We was I was a weed head, you know, doing a lot of smoking or whatever the case. Thought I was being creative. But yeah, so yeah. And then what happened was we found a real local studio, and we went there for the first time and dropped our first track. And then it was like the best thing in our lives. And then I could play that track for you right now, and I'm gonna have a frown on my face because of how, you know what I'm saying, how terrible I was. But in that moment, it didn't felt like I was on top of the world. And so this is like 2015 maybe. And so that's when I started the journey into the music and taking it more seriously, because what happened was, with all those jobs that I listed, I got out of all of those jobs, it was only one that I left on a good note. The rest of them, I got fired. I got fired, man. I definitely got fired, brother. So me and the landscaping guy, Kelly, we fell out. Target Target was a terrible story. I actually got jumped in the parking lot by some people who were stealing. And because I retaliated in self-defense, I had to lose my job because they had a no retaliation policy. I go to Chipotle. Um, I was telling the kitchen manager because I thought we were so cool, but there was a language barrier because it was in South Miami and all the workers were predominantly Hispanic.
Right.
So, it was hard to communicate, but not with this guy in particular because he was bilingual. But the boss that was over him, George, it was a barrier, right? So he'll be like the middleman. And I was just sharing with him, this wasn't for him to take any action, but I was like, hey, yeah, man, I think his name was Kevin or something. I said, Kevin, yeah, man, I'm waiting on my security license to come in. And when they come in, man, I think I'm gonna go ahead and do security. Man, this guy went to the back office, got on the phone, and then came back like 10 minutes later, and he was like, hey, Keane, I told George that you put in your 2 weeks. And I was like, what? Like, I didn't tell you that. I didn't tell you know what I'm saying? And I was so appalled, and I was like, what made you do that? And so I come back to work the next day, and George was like, hey, man, I heard you put in your 2 weeks. But I was going to say, man, we don't even have to wait 2 weeks. You could just go ahead and have your last meal, and then we'll catch you. You're not getting fired. We're gonna put it in the system as a retirement, so that way you're still eligible to work here in the future. But there's no sense in prolonging. And I was like, you know what, man? All right, that's a bet, man. I'll go ahead and get up out of here. It was rough anyway, man. I was having a time. You really understand the hard work that goes behind these restaurants, man.
Oh yeah.
Like I was a dishwasher. I did a little bit of everything. I was on the grill. I did prep. I did dishwashing. I did lobby. And that dishwashing would literally have my hands cutting from holding it, you know what I'm saying? And one night, man, I'll never forget it. I was by myself trying to take my schedule was from 4 to 11. I didn't get off until almost 2 o'clock in the morning, all the nights that I worked. I tried to they take all the steak, all the chicken sauce, all the guacamole, all the pinto beans, all the black beans, all the everything, the lemon, everything, all the trash, they put it in a bag. And I found myself trying to pick the bag up out the garbage can. The bag's weighing about a good 80, 90 pounds because it's full of burrito stuff. And I'm out there fighting for probably a good 15 minutes. Finally get the bag in the air and the bag rips. Turn myself into a big Chipotle quesadilla bowl burrito. And at that point I was fed up, man. So, but I was really going through it, man. But nonetheless, so yeah, man. So that happened to me. I was at security, and that's when I realized, man, with some organizations and companies, man, you just another body, right?
Yeah.
Like they just need you to fill a spot, you know. And I really felt, I really didn't feel cared for as an employee, you know. So when that was shown from the organization, I kind of treated it like that. Like, all right, well, y'all just need somebody. I just need a check. So that means we just gonna give each other the bare minimum. And that came across because I was in school at the time, and it was my first day of school at Miami-Dade, and they called me like 2 days prior asking me if I could work a double, and I told them no, and they tried it anyway. So my relief didn't come that morning, and I was working the night shift already, you know. So stuff like that, it just switched my mind up, man. And then I left there. I went to Parks and Recreation. You know, and then I had enough of that. But now I'm at where I'm at now. But the whole way I was making music. And so yeah, man, that's a little backdrop about me, man. And that's like the roundabout. And matter of fact, and I don't want to leave this part out either, man. The faith aspect, right?
Yeah.
So remember when we talked about the foundation.
Yeah.
That came in with my mother bringing me to church, even though I didn't understand it at that time, you know. And then I got out into the real world, so to speak, and started engaging in it, you know. And when the faith thing happens, man, like literally, the Lord came back to me and He spoke to me personally, and He kind of maneuvered and guided the way to where I'm at now, where I'm at a church home. And it's stories in that too, man. It get deep. 'Cause I done see some stuff that I gotta go. Like, this can't be right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, but yeah, man. So that's a big part of me, man. My faith my faith in Jesus Christ. I think it helps form the man I am today. It helps me look at the things that I went through in my past and kind of say, okay, well, this is why this happened, and this is why I had to go through this, and it just makes sense. You know what I'm saying? So, but that's the scope of Keane Carter Reaves, man. Born November 6, 1994, and alive and well, man, and happy. I'm truly happy. I'm truly blessed. And even when it get rough, you know what I'm saying, I have a greater hope that I hold on to that'll bring me right back up. So that's just how I choose to live my life and let my light shine amongst anybody else who's willing to listen, you know?
Nice. And so that's, you already got me with probably 15 different questions here, and
Okay, cool.
things I want to know a little bit more about. And that's exactly, I love asking that simple question at the beginning, because it's like people have a story,
Right.
and that's an important part. We could start the interview here,
Mm-hmm.
and there'd be some good stuff,
Right.
and nobody would understand why.
Right.
And that matters to me. I think that's a big piece of it. So I want to come back a little bit. And this question is sometimes hard for people. And if you want to pass on either of them, you can totally pass on them. But if you were to describe mom with a word, what would that be?
Oh, man. Just one?
One word.
Just one, man. Oh, man. Man, I can't. Man, amazing. And I say amazing because I could pile a lot of things into that. Yeah, it's like a general word, and I could tell you why she's amazing. And then it'll just flesh out to because she was loving, because she was caring, because she was always there, because she was da-da-da-da-da. So amazing, man. And that's a lot in one.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, it's like I said, it's a hard question for a lot of people, and it can be hard for a variety of reasons. What about dad?
Okay. Yeah. For my father, I would say he was driven. That's a word I would use for my father. Like whatever he wants, he gets it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And he'll provide the way. And I didn't see my father, in a sense, to a degree, hit rock bottom and still come back. You know what I'm saying? And do what he needs to do to get whatever he wanted done. Yeah. So I think that's a beautiful word for my father, driven.
And so I'm going to come back to that in a minute, because I think that there's some connections there that are pretty cool. But I want to go a little bit more towards something that I think is, when I first looked at wanting to talk to you, there's a word that came to mind, and that word is transcendent. And the reason why that you made me think of that word is because like I told you before we came on, I'm not a particularly religious person. I don't have playlists of various Christian music in my iTunes. Like it's not, we were connected by something that had nothing to do with that, or had nothing to do with honestly even music at the time. And that, to me, when I use the word transcendent with you, it's because when I listen to your stuff, it crosses over the barrier, might not be the right word, or maybe it is the right word, but the barrier between Christian music, if I'm going to put a label on it, and everything else. Because if you listen, it's not what I would describe, and I'm going to generalize here. I'm probably going to generalize a lot and make some assumptions a lot through this interview, so feel free to call me out on it. When I hear a lot of it, it doesn't cross that barrier for me, regardless of the genre. It's just like it's I'm not hearing anything in the lyrics that speaks to me as somebody who's not particularly religious. So when I listen to your stuff, I hear a lot of stuff that does speak to me as somebody who's not particularly religious. There's stuff there. There's a lot of meat there. There's something that I can grab onto and connect with in a way that I haven't, and I would imagine other people have experienced other stuff with various genres as well. Wow. And so when I think about being transcendent, I also think that you've had, like, I don't know how long we could talk about your childhood, man. We could talk about it for a long time, because there's a lot of things in there that have shaped you. And one of the things that stands out to me in particular is maybe that experience in early school where you're super independent in terms of your learning. Like you're really left to your own devices to guide your own learning.
Right.
And I want to know, looking back now, knowing that you're doing something that is hard but is important, and I'm going to come back to that in a minute. Do you think that was that early learning experience positively shaped that for now? Or do you think that it was something that you had to overcome to get to where you are now?
You know, man, that's a great question, man. That's a great question. And the way you posed that question made me look at that story of my childhood and schooling in a different light. And I say that because when I got to high school after leaving that environment, I felt like I was behind, right? Because, you know, when you have a structure that kids kind of grow up into, when they get to high school, it's same old, same old. But for me, when I got to high school, it was definitely different, and I had to adjust. But now looking at the fact that from K through to about seventh grade, I was kind of put in a situation where I had to go get it.
Yeah.
And now I'm looking at what I'm doing in my life as far as the music is pertaining to the music and pertaining to what I feel is called my purpose, that I'm literally doing the same thing. Yeah. I'm going to get it, man. And so the answer to your question would be yeah. It and I never thought of it like that, but definitely it did something for me that I didn't see behind you know the curtains, you know, because sometimes you can just see what's in your face, like man, but we don't ever know what's going on behind the scenes. And now that we place those two together, man, definitely 100%.
Yeah.
It helped groom me into the person that I am today. And all of those skills and things that I did back then as a child, with going to get my own lessons and trying to learn how to put stuff together and make it make sense. It's definitely where I'm at as a 25-year-old in this world.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm glad that that's how you feel, because that's exactly what it's one of the fundamental beliefs of the company and me as a educator and a coach and that kind of thing, that the struggle combined with some level of passion is going to be what guides you towards some kind of success. You can't miss one of the struggle or the passion.
Right.
And some people have more of one than the other. So some people have immense amount of passion. They don't have to see much struggle, but they see just enough struggle to get them where they want to go.
Right.
Some people have an immense amount of struggle and they got some passion, but the struggle's just so big that little blip of passion better be big too. It better be strong. It might be small, but it better be strong, because it's got to get them past that much larger amount of struggle to get to where they're trying to go.
Right.
And
I
so
agree.
I think that same, we like in psychology, you would call it like self-actualization, where it would be like you really starting to figure out who you are. I think that comes back later, and I don't want to go too far into this because I don't think that it's well, I'm sure we could talk about it for a really long time, or it'll distract from what I actually want to get at. But when you talk about getting into drugs, which, by the way, like, I find the drug conversation to be interesting, just because like now, like I live in a country right now where it's legal. Right. Like you go out to California and I have some really strong opinions about what that illegalization does to the prison system and stuff like that, and industrialized prison stuff. And I have an opinion, and I guess I'll even say a problem with the fact that really hurts, I think, a lot of good people. Right. But, that's a bit of a tangent. So when you think about getting into drugs, like, drugs come with pressure. It doesn't matter who it is. Nobody just wakes up in the morning and left to their own devices is like, man, I'm going to smoke weed all day. Right. Like, for the first time, no, that doesn't happen. There's a pressure there. Yeah. And because there's pressure with drugs, pressure is also 100% always internal. We control pressure. External factors can create situations where we can make pressure in our mind.
Mm-hmm.
But pressure is internal. So what was the pressure that you think happened that got you into those? And then we're going to build on that a bit.
Yeah, man. I think oh man. All right, just give me 2 seconds, King.
Yeah.
All right, King. So I stepped out because I wanted I have to be brutally honest. And my father just came home. And so you asked you asking this question, it kind of pertains to that.
Okay.
Right. So that first day, and this is it's probably more than just that. It was probably things that me being overweight. I think at the age of 10, man, I went to the doctor. I was 210 pounds. So I
Okay.
was I was a fairly big dude. I was always an outcast. When I was in elementary school, kids would sit in a circle and had a crisscross applesauce. But because of my weight, I wasn't able to do that. So either I would sit with my, and I'm just pouring all out, you know what I'm saying? I'm
Yeah.
just giving
No.
you all, but I would sit with my legs straight and my back up because I couldn't, because of the mass of me. Um, yeah, man, I got picked on, but then it was funny because in that, like I learned how to defend myself as well. But yeah, so I think weight had a lot to do with it. Being accepted, wanting to be accepted had a lot to do with it.
I want to
That
ask
that
you real quick. Sorry to interrupt, but I want to ask you about when you say defend yourself.
Mhm.
Any of us who've ever been bullied or picked on know that sometimes you have to defend yourself physically.
Right,
Did
right.
you, and you can just answer with a yes or no, or you can go into it a bit if you want. I don't want to take you too far from your original point, but
Mhm.
did you develop some serious stuff for inside your own head to defend yourself during that time?
Uh, I would say yeah. Yeah, and for myself, a mechanism to where I didn't let it affect me to the point where it could just take over me. Like
Yeah.
it is still hit a jab,
Yeah.
but I could cope with it to an extent.
They're
I
not
would so
knockout
I would say
punches
yeah.
anymore.
Right, right. So I would say that. I would say yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, so but back to the story. So yeah, man. So it was I was always just a different kid, but even though I had those struggles, I always had a smile on my face. I was always the funny guy. I was always the one who was happy, and sometimes that got me in trouble. You know what I'm saying? I was always the joke. I was always
Yeah.
the class clown. I don't like to say class clown. I would rather say class comedian. But my eighth grade year, they gave me class clown, and I was offended. But cause I knew some kids that were way way worse than me, and my intentions wasn't to be a clown. My intentions was to make people happy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Cause that's what just got me through. Like just good vibes, a beautiful atmosphere, and somewhere where people feel like they belong. And I was fighting for that.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that being an outcast thing and being different and not like the cool. Well, I was pretty popular. That's the crazy part, right? Maybe not in my younger, but as I hit high school and I went junior year of high school, I made good friends. I was universal. I could connect with the kids who had some social, you know what I'm saying, acceptance, and then I could relate with the ones who was probably in the background and in the fourth
Yeah. Yeah.
in the back. So it was a little neutral, man. But but that's on the outside. But on the inside, man, I was just dealing with insecurities,
Hmm.
and this happened all my life, man. And clothes, like I was never a good dresser because I didn't like the way I looked in clothes. You know what I'm saying? Women. I had one girlfriend, one real girlfriend in my life. I had, I don't want to get into that, but yeah, so you know what I'm saying? Like, I had a couple of female friends, but
Yeah.
it wasn't nothing serious. It was only one real relationship that I was in. But yeah, so my insecurities, man, and I dealt with this all my life, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, could you imagine being 210 pounds at the age of 10 years old and everybody else is skinny, fit, and then you grow up still being a big dude?
Yeah.
And it just seems like 99% of the world is fit and you the only one that's just big and out of shape. And it's like, well, dang, what happened to me? Like, like what did I do wrong? Like, it just seems like the normal thing, man. So yeah, man, that kind of pressure, that kind of, and then I think the thing that snapped for me was, man, that the first day I really, because I was the advocate for non-smoking. Like, don't do that. It's gonna mess you up. It's gonna, know what I'm saying? But the first, me and my pops had got into an argument,
Yeah.
and I was on top of everything that I just explained with the insecurities. And at that point, I was like, man, forget it. You know what I'm saying? And I had friends who was already doing it, and they introduced me to it, and then that became my getaway. That became my coping mechanism. That became, and people, like my mom was trying to tell me, you running from something, and I would just be in denial the whole time because I didn't realize it. In that moment, I just felt like it made me feel accepted, and my brothers at that time, they loved me for who I was, because like people can see something that you don't see in yourself.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So they'll be like, man, he funny and he's so cool to hang out. This my brother Keane, da 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 da. And I can hear that, but at the same time, that devil in my ear is like, man, they just, it ain't really like that. They don't really care for you. They just hanging with you out of pity. You know what I'm saying? That's how that works. So yeah, man. So those pressures, they built up, and that's what it exploded into.
The that idea that you just talked about, that idea where it's your people are looking you in the eye and they're telling you, like, you're good, you're funny, we like you, like, we want to hang out with you. They're introducing you to people, being like, I like this guy, but
Right.
inside your head, that idea of really thinking that that's not the reality, denying what the actual fact is right there for the story that's playing in your head.
Mm-hmm.
We'll often talk about that in the context of imposter syndrome.
Mm.
And it's interesting to me because we get it with professional athletes and business people and artists and speakers and students all the time, and it's just everybody gets it. But as people start to get on the cusp of having any kind of success or any kind of thing that they like, that's when the story and the film in their head starts to roll with like, I'm not good enough, nobody likes me, I'm an imposter, I'm a fake, people are going to find out that I'm not actually funny. One day they're going to wake up, they're going to realize all those jokes aren't actually funny.
Right.
Or like, as an artist, one day, like, all of a sudden somebody's going to come out tomorrow and they're going to be like, this guy's not anything.
Right.
Like those,
Right.
that imposter syndrome's real. It happens to me in business, where it's just like, just as you're about to sign a contract or something like that, it's like, no, they're going to walk in the room and they're going to be like, no, we don't need this, we don't want this, like that kind of stuff. And you've overcome that multiple times, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe this was one of the first times really trying to come through. And again, I said passion and struggle have to work together to get to success. So now you've doubled down on your struggle, because you're getting picked on. There's like, you have an argument or things aren't going so good at home, whether that's in the short term or the long term, what have you, and you turn to some drugs. So the struggle is getting a little bigger now, which means the passion is going to have to get a little stronger. How close to this time period? So when you're a little bit into drugs, or when or maybe I don't know what a little bit into drugs means. When you're when you're doing drugs at all, how close to that time period did you really start to find faith as something that was a big part of your life?
Okay, so that would be find it. Wow, that's a great question. 20, I want to say 2017. Because I think people could have the faith but not act out in it.
Gotcha.
So I believe that it was a God. I believe that he was, you know what I'm saying? But did I believe enough to seek him instead of, doing things on my own and trying to figure things out on my own? And so the beautiful part about it is, while I was in that state, like I would say that faith found me, right? Like God came and got me while I was dealing with those insecurities, while I was dealing with, the circumstances that I was in. So with that being said, man, 2017, that's like maybe 2.5 years into my journey of smoking, right? Uh, yeah, 2017, and I was. The funny part about it was I was high when that happened. When that whole breakdown, like it's this thing, not this thing, but it's scripture in the book of Acts, and it talks about this. The road to Damascus was Saul, and Saul was on his way to the next city to persecute some more Christians. On his way there, he got smacked off his horse, and he got changed, right? And he went to the city that he was going to converted. So they was like, man, ain't this the same guy who out here da 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 da? And God himself told one person over there, he was like, man, look, Saul is my chosen instrument. So I call it a road to Damascus moment, where God kind of smacked me off my horse and kind of sat me down and had that conversation with me. So faith came in at that picture, like me being high, doing what I do to cope, and he found me in that thing. So to answer your question, 2017, that's like 2.5 years to my smoking journey.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And I say cool in the sense that you continue to build what I would call positive habits from that. And so it's interesting to me because you were talking about school and how you didn't really necessarily always reflect on that as being something that built you up.
Mm-hmm.
But I really do think that it did. And now, so let's look back on that time period. So two or so years of smoking.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back now, would you say that built you up or it tore you down?
I would say.
And by the way, I'm not advocating. I'm not trying to get you to say that everybody who listens to this should. I'm talking about the struggle.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah, no, I totally understand, man. And I would say, man, if I could be honest,
yeah,
I want to be like neutral, like, because there's a pro and a con.
Gotcha. Go with that.
Doing that showed me how to depend on something, right? So I would depend on the smoking, right? And so as that comes to the faith aspect, I grow on depending on the source of my coping mechanism, or what helps me get through, right? So then it was weed, now it's faith, right? It's Jesus. And then the bad thing was, and maybe it's not a bad thing to some other people, but just the fact that I was misplacing that my dependence, like I was depending on the wrong thing. And you don't even see, like, behind it, like, literally, man, I probably spent thousands of dollars on weed within them, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And now I'm thinking of myself and where I'm at, like that money could have been used for investments. That money could have been used for collabs, features, studio time, whatever the case may be. So I think it's a give and take. I think it's a give and take process, man. I think it came with some good things. Maybe not maybe not a lot of them. Maybe just that dependence aspect.
Yeah.
Right. Run into that thing that I depend on. But in the light of it's good for me, that it's not going to hinder me, or whatever the case is. And not saying that weed hinders people. I mean, I think everybody had different experiences. You know what I'm saying? But it's not me no more. But yeah, I took the good with it. I took the bad with it, and it shapes my thought process today.
Yeah.
You feel me? And I think we could apply that to everything, even with the schooling, with the drugs, with the violence, domestic violence, whatever the case is.
Yeah. So what I hear there is, and I like what you said at the end, which is, it's not necessarily good, it's not necessarily bad, but it did shape, it molded, it created something. And whether maybe at the end of it all, we look back and we can say if it was good or it was bad. But there's definitely, it definitely played a role. It didn't just pass you by unaffected.
Right.
So now as we I want to get away from anything to do with the drug stuff now, and really dive into some poetry, to being an artist, to that kind of thing. But I do want to connect those dots to what we have been talking about, which is that I have to imagine that being an artist who is heavily influenced, to I guess make an assumption.
That's right.
By your faith, I would have to imagine there's been times where people have recommended that if you pull back on that, you can access all this other stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely, 100%, 100%. I had friends do that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Hey, look, man, I like what you're doing there with the Jesus thing, but we need that. we need that drug smoking, real stuff in the hood that we can relate to. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. 100%.
And so I don't want to. It's not that I don't want to, but I want to actually connect to the part of that where you've got the pushback. You've got the ability to be like, no, this is my lane. This is where I go. And it's going to take me where I want to go. And I know I can step out of this lane and maybe go somewhere else, but that's not going to be where I want to go. So what in your head keeps you in that lane?
Man, listen, I think truth, right? This is in my faith, I believe it to be absolute truth. And I believe that the things that that other lane offers is a lie. And I think it exposes us to things that we don't understand the consequences and the implications and the doors that it opens, right? So and the crazy part is when I was doing music, I played in both sides, right? So I did a song called Medicated, and the hook was more drugs, more and more drugs, roll up, more drugs, right? You know what I'm saying? And so like somebody will hear that and go, spark up whatever it is, whatever the drug is, right? And then, but do I tell them about the overdosing? Do I tell them about that you're susceptible to hitting the wrong pipe that could change your life forever or practically kill you? You know what I'm saying? When I was glorifying the women and the cars and the money, did I do that? Like, let's apply it to the hip hop culture today.
Yeah.
Do they tell you that all the women that you potentially sleep with might have diseases, or they might carry your baby, but you didn't want that baby because it was just a fling? You know what I'm saying? They don't tell you the things behind what they selling. And then from a faith standpoint, like we have consequences for our actions. The Lord says that he will repay each according to his works. And me being a believer, I believe that. And it's like, if you look at somebody like Hitler and you tell me he kills all these Jews and then he just rests in peace forever, that's not justice. That's not just. And something's not right with that. But in Christianity and in the faith, God would not be God if he's not just. Meaning, back to that point, he would pay each according to his works, right? And so to plainly answer your question, that lane is a lie, and I could see it a lie, and I could see why are some of these artists, you know what I'm saying, got all the money and still not happy? Why are they still committing suicide? Why are so you telling me the fact that they got all them millions of dollars doesn't change the fact that they dealing with depression? You telling me you can be rich and still suffer from depression and whatever the case is? So I identify that lie. And then I look at what I know to be true, and I see it's real raw and authentic. Like, just because you believe doesn't mean everything gonna be sweet. It doesn't mean that it's gonna be gravy and you're gonna get everything you want. It's not this prosperity thing. It is, but it's not. Meaning that the hope in eternal life, and that's when all the the inheritance and the benefits come in that, and you could kind of get that here, right? But it's just real and authentic with you. It's not gonna be easy. You're gonna get persecuted. They're gonna look at you funny. They're gonna tell you to denounce your faith. They're gonna tell you da 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 da. And if you're not serving this, then you need to go, or you need to. So I look at the lie and I look at the truth and how it applies to me in my life and how it affected me being on both sides of the spectrum. And that's where I make that firm decision that this is the lane that I'm in. This is what has my heart. And this is how I'm gonna go. And it's either you in or you out, you rock with it or you don't, and I'm okay with that. You know what I'm saying? So it could get to the point where it's like, man, that sounds good. I could pray for you, bro, but that's just not me. Yeah. That's not me. It doesn't fill my heart, doesn't bring me joy. You could go ahead and have it, man. And just kind of like the message and the degrading of humanity and women, and like, please do not refer to my mother or my daughter like you refer to these women in your music.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And but that's how I look at it. A truth and a lie. And I'm not buying into the lie, man. I'm buying into the truth.
Yeah, and that's when I say transcendent, that's exactly what I'm talking about. When you put it like that. And I guess the lens I put on it is one is empty and one is fulfilled.
Right.
And this is everything you just said. Everything you just said in that concept is not just for artists. It's not just it transcends beyond any type of religion or anything like that. It's like there's always going to be the lane that is fulfilled, where you feel full, you feel fulfilled. And there's going to be the lane where you feel empty, and you might have things and you might have people, but you won't have that same fulfillment.
Right.
And I think that when you have to push back, when you have to have that passion that transcends, to stick with the theme, the struggle, and goes through the struggle. And when that has to happen multiple times, or when you've been, in my opinion, fortunate to have that struggle happen multiple times, you're able to, I think, to see that lane more clearly. Do you think that's fair to say?
Yeah, definitely. 100%. 100%.
So connecting your artistry to your poetry, it's really interesting to me. But then I realized I wanted a job, got a degree in English. And it became very apparent to me that an English degree probably wasn't going to get me a whole lot of career opportunities, at least very quickly. So, but that's like, I have, like, if you were to look in here, there's a stack of books up to just about up to the height of the desk. There's books up in behind here. There's a bin of books in behind the desk. Like it's a big piece. And so when you talk poetry, and a couple of these books are poetry books, because I've always thought that that's something, again, if we're sticking with the transcendent theme, that's something that every time you look at it, and maybe this is similar to the Bible for you. Actually, I'll reach here and say that this probably is what the Bible is to a lot of people, which is that every time I look at poetry and certain novels and certain nonfiction books, it reads different where I'm at today than it read where I was at a year ago, than it read 10 years ago.
100%. 100%.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about Ease My Mind.
Okay.
Because I think that that's a track that to me, I hear poetry, and to me, I hear something that it's going to hit different at different times in life. And I don't know if that's what you were going for, but that's what I hear in there. So I'm kind of curious about what Ease My Mind is for you.
Yeah, man. It's funny. I approaching that track, I never really thought of it like that. Like, I didn't think about how it was gonna hit. Yeah. I just knew that as I was writing, that was a place that I was in. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so, to your point, it's poetry, but it's life for me at that point. And it's so funny because man, like, my writing process is unorthodox. I don't have like, you know what I'm saying? It's literally, I turn on the music if the beat puts me in a place where this is how I feel. this is what I want to communicate. So yeah, man. And so with that track, man, it was just my heart spilling.
Yeah.
You know, it was too many times I was breaking your heart. In spite of my sin, you was loving me so. Faithful and caring, then faithful and caring, never letting me go. Deep in the darkness, your light had a glow, but I had to go. You know, so so deep in the darkness, but I had to go. Your light had a glow, but I had to go. And but yeah, man. So and that just comes from the truth, of the word of God to me.
Yeah.
Like remember we talked about that lane, and the on the left side is the lies and on the right side is the truth, right? And then we could go as far as to say the left side being darkness and the right side being light, right? And so I was deep in that darkness, but the contrast in your light, it had a glow, so I had to see what that was about.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so understanding what love is, right? And how it comes from God and how he showed us that love. And it's a scripture in the Bible, it's Romans 2:4. It talks about, I'm paraphrasing right now, but it says that his goodness is meant to bring us to repentance, right? So you see somebody who's so good to you in spite of you, right? If you are humble or a person with a heart and a conscience, you'll be like, I don't deserve this. Like why do you do this for me? I don't get it. You know, but that's just the kind of God that I serve.
Yeah.
So knowing that this was my heart to him, right? And yeah, man, that's where that track came from. Just the love that he shows me, the depravity that I was in, and sometimes that I choose to be in, right? Because I'm not perfect and I don't got it all together. And sometimes I can make the wrong decision knowing that it's the wrong decision.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I'm saying? But in spite of that, he's still gonna be who he is, and that's faithful and true and caring and loving. And so yeah, man, that's where that track came from. Ease my mind, and that's the point. Like he eases my mind,
Yeah.
right? All my anxiety, all the times, all the insecurity, all the times I think I'm not enough, or that I'm never gonna fit in. But I realize, like, I don't, at this point, I don't care if I fit in here in this world, because I'm not meant to fit in this world. You know what I'm saying? I'm not meant to. That's why I don't think about the same things that the world puts on a pedestal, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but he eases my mind. You know, you got me right here. You always ease my mind, and that's where that came from, man.
Yeah, and when I say transcendent, that's one of the songs that hits that the most for me, because as somebody who's not particularly religious, I hear that, and I just hear the light that you're talking about there, to me, connects with any mentor or teacher, parent who's guided you, like that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think that's pretty cool. Like I think that message, and this is where, like, I believe that everybody should and needs to have some kind of faith, because really, what are you doing? What do you like? Like, if you don't believe in anything, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And you might have to dig a little bit to figure out exactly what I mean by that. But what are you doing? Maybe it's God. Maybe it's something else. It can be whatever. But everybody's got something there. So when I think if you're listening to that concept of darkness, that concept of seeing a light and needing to, now that I see that there's another option, now that I see there's something better for me, now that I see that there's a bigger goal, bigger purpose, bigger even light, like a lighthouse, like concept, like go here or don't go there, like that kind of thing. All of a sudden things start to get a little bit more clear, regardless of what kind of faith you put on it. I think that's a pretty transcendent statement, and that's why I asked you about that one in particular.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Just as we start to look at wrapping up here, I have a couple questions just out of curiosity. So I've read the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not I can't quote scripture like you can, and actually I've honestly I've always been pretty jealous of that. I think that's when you talk about people, like, I've got books I love.
Uh-huh.
I can't quote them. like I've read them 4 or 5 times, but I can't rip off 3 or 4 lines from it. Like
Right,
and
right.
I my one of my cousins is she's a minister here in Canada. She's got a PhD in
Theology. Yeah.
yeah, I think so. Like that,
Man of God. Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's never really been that hasn't been where my faith has landed. And
Mhm.
so I've always been jealous though of that ability to like, oh, I can recall this part of the book that speaks to me. Like I can do that anytime. So
Yeah.
when you've already mentioned a couple things, but I'm curious, just is there one that you come back to a lot? And maybe that's an unfair question.
Nah, man, listen, man. You can have a favorite scripture. I think I got many of them, and some of them I could quote, and some of them I got to paraphrase, and you know what I'm saying. Some of them I can't tell you what book they found in,
Yeah.
you know, because it's a big book, man. You talk about 66 different books, and I think 40 different authors written over thousands of years in between. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But yeah, I tell you, I think what helps is you said something about something that speaks to my heart, right?
Hmm.
And so not only I think it's uh Titus 1 verse 2 says that God can never lie. And then there's another scripture which I can't tell you, but I can paraphrase for you.
Yeah.
It says that that all scripture is useful for reproof, for correcting, and is God breathed, inspired by God, right? Um, and it's because that gets even deeper because in the Hebrew and Greek language, inspired means almost like to breathe into, like not that he inspired me, but
Yeah.
he almost did it himself, type of deal. So now I associate the Bible with being God's word, right? How God speaks to men, right? So now when I hear these verses, I understand this is God giving me instruction. So you asked about a favorite verse or verses. You have Matthew 6:33, which says, seek the kingdom first and all his righteousness, and everything will be added, right?
Can you say
So
that
this
again?
shows me seek the kingdom first and all of his righteousness, and everything else will be added. And so the context of that is in the book of Matthew is the gospel, but Jesus is telling everybody who's listening that to not be anxious for nothing, right? He says that the birds are fed every day. And how much more important do you think that you are to God, that he won't cover you just like he covers the birds, right? Another one, Romans 8:28, I love it. For everything works out for the good for those who love Christ and are called according to his purpose. Wait, everything works out for the good. So you telling me when me and my father get into an argument? You telling me when I just lost my sister to COVID-19? You telling me that when my mom is suffering with this disease or whatever, everything works out for the good for those who are in Christ? All right, let's look at the story of Joseph. Joseph was the youngest of 11 or 12 brothers, and was sold into slavery by his brothers, and then ended up in prison because he was under the Pharaoh, and the Pharaoh's wife lied on him about wanting to sleep with him. So he was thrown into prison, but God gave him the gift to be able to interpret dreams, which put him right back under the next Pharaoh. And then he became the king of Egypt. Not only did he become the king of Egypt, but when the famine hit the land, his family, his brothers, the same one that sold him into slavery, and had no way to eat, and they had to go to the king of Egypt, which turned out to be the little brother that they sold into slavery. So is Lord, is this is what you mean by everything works out the good? I think scripture says what they meant for my evil, he meant for my good. Words like this, to your point, I think transcendent, right?
Yeah.
Like you know what I'm saying? And the fact that that we are men just like Joseph. You get what I'm saying? And God makes this promise to his people that everything works out. So just like I didn't understand the being picked on, the drug doing, all of those things, that's who you see today. And it worked out for the good. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man. Um, I feed myself with that kind of truth. And it helps me look at the world in a different way. It helps me look at life circumstances in a different way. And it helps me deal. It helps me deal. It provides me with promises that I can hold on to. So it doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter what he says. God said this. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. That's that really hits it. I'm going to ask you a couple kind of quick hit questions here just to
Let's do
wrap
it.
up, and some of them are really easy. Some of them you might have to think about a little bit.
Yeah.
What scares you?
Nothing.
Why?
Because I got a God who is sovereign and in control of everything. Right? He says, don't fear the one that can take the body, but fear the one that can take the body and the soul and torment it in hell. You know, so somebody could kill me, but guess what? If they didn't do it, I was gonna die eventually. You know, but to that point, I have a hope. I have a hope, and it's funny because the story of Christ shows that, yeah, Jesus died on the cross for our sins, but what did he do on the third day? He resurrected. What does this say? It says that death is defeated, right? That's why the scripture says death wears your sting. You have no sting. The Bible says that the same spirit that rose, for those who believe, the same spirit that rose Jesus Christ up from the dead is the same spirit that's going to rise you up from the dead. You know what I'm saying? And look, and I'm not gonna sit here and act like I done seen Jesus face to face. I ain't gonna act like I could tell you I done felt him. I can tell you that I can identify when he has moved in my life. I could definitely do that on countless occasions. But he told Thomas, right? The disciples was telling Thomas, hey man, Jesus came back. We seen him. Thomas was like, listen, man, until I see the holes myself, until I see him myself, I don't want to hear none of that. And Jesus just popped up, and he said, Thomas, put your hand in the hole in my hand, put your hands in my side. And he says, now do you believe? And then he says, you believe because you've seen, but blessed are those who haven't seen and yet believe, right?
Mm.
And so this is my whole essence, like I have a God who created everything in and outside the universe. Pluto, Venus, Mars, the sun, all of that. He's in control of all of this, right? And so I serve that God who knows me personally, just like he knows everybody, because we are all his creation, right? So yeah, man, when you got something so big and so vast, like think about it like this, Ken. You in Canada right now, man. I'm in Miami. If we both go outside, we're gonna be looking at the same sky.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And we know how far away we are from each other. You know, so this same God I'm talking about holds that in the palm of his hand.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like why be scared? Yeah, he told me it was gonna hurt. Matter of fact, he did it himself just to show what it would look like. You know, and it's gonna look like that to different extents for different people, right? It's persecution in different countries where, man, if they catch you with a Bible, it's over with, right? Torture, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. So I'm not scared of nothing, man.
Yeah.
I'm not. I can't. I got a God. I fear God. I think a better word for God is reverence. Like I respect him. I understand his capabilities, but I also understand that he loves me beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Right.
So it's like that fatherly love. Like when your dad was about to discipline you, you know what I'm saying? You was like, oh, man, you know what I'm saying? But all in all, like when there was baseball game time or basketball game time, he was right there rooting, and you just wanted to make him happy because that was your pops.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Same relationship with the God that I serve, who's founded the person of Jesus Christ. So yeah, to answer your question, I know I said a lot, but to answer your question, I don't fear nothing. I don't fear nothing.
So I want to pull on that just real quick, and the version of Keane who was scared, and I'm this is one of those times where I'm making an assumption, but the version who was a heavier set kid, the version who was getting picked on, the version who was turning to drugs, in my opinion, I see some scared there. Am I wrong on that?
I don't. What I would ask, because like when you say scared, because I would say I would maybe fear of not being accepted.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah. Right. You know what I'm saying? So in that, yeah, definitely, 100%. I would totally agree with insecurity, the fear of not being wanted or loved. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But the crazy part is, I found out that was a lie.
Yeah.
You know, it was a lie, and then it's just the way the enemy attacks you and plays on that. You give them an inch, he'll take a whole mile.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So yeah.
So let's go. We'll play both. I'll get some advice from you for that version of Keane
Hmm.
that sits in my track and one that
Hmm.
sits in your track.
Okay.
So what I mean by that is give that version of you some advice that comes from a Christianity based response,
Yeah,
and one that
definitely.
comes from a non-denominational response.
Okay. So from the Christian response
Hmm.
is that you were, it says that you were one, the word says that you were wonderfully and remarkably made. You are unique, right? You were made different from everybody else. Nobody else in the world has your thumbprint. Nobody else in the world has your DNA. Nobody else in the world is made like you are constructed, right? And this goes for everybody. So from a biblical standpoint and a faith standpoint, you are who you are supposed to be as far as, your affections, your build, your person, your skin color, whatever the case it is. You were exactly where you are right now, where you're supposed to be at in your life. And then I guess on the other side, from a non,
Yeah.
I would say, hmm, I would say, although this is gonna sound kind of how you say, cliche.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fine.
Although you may not understand it or see it, you are loved. You are definitely loved, man.
Yeah.
You might not feel that way, but you are. And
Yeah.
I say that because of, like I told you, my peoples was telling me, you know what I'm saying? But it was me combating that. Whereas they really meant what they said. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man, you are loved.
Nice. Nice. That was you really made that hit home. Um, are you reading? So I'm sure reading the Bible is an ongoing thing. I don't know that anybody ever stops.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
so are you reading anything else right now, or have you read anything else that you would want somebody else to take a look at that is impactful?
Book wise,
Yeah.
so man, me and my brothers from the church, we do a men's meeting on Saturday mornings through the Zoom app, and it's called Every Man's Battle by whatchamacallit. I don't know his name. His name is Fred something. It's two authors actually. Every Man's Battle, and it talks about this the fight for sexual purity and the
Okay.
importance of sexual purity, especially dealing in the faith. That's just another book that I'm reading for that meeting.
Yeah.
Um, I read a book called The Shepherd Leader. It's a pretty good book. It's kind of for pastors, people in that pastoral thing, but it still drops nuggets for those who are not in that kind of category.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then other than those were the two books that I came across lately. But then other than that, it's just the Bible.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just the Bible. But yeah, so those are two books I would definitely recommend to check out. You know.
Cool. I'm gonna toss three book titles your way, and you don't have to write them down, but you can listen back to it later and remember what the titles are. The first is The Five People You Meet in Heaven, which is Mitch
Sounds
Albom.
interesting. So it sounds interesting. So I'm gonna write it down.
It's small. I can show it to you here.
Really? That's right up my alley, Ken.
Yeah, look, that's how thick it is.
Yeah, I could do a small book, man. I could do a small book.
It's not particularly religious in spite of the title.
Okay, okay,
Um, but it's one of the more impactful books I've ever read.
okay. Let me write that down. You said the five people you meet in heaven.
Yeah,
The five people you meet in heaven,
yeah, yeah.
and that's by
Mitch Albom, Albom.
Mitch Albom, Albom.
Yeah,
All right.
and then I'm gonna send it. I'm not gonna give you three because I don't want to be dropping too many books on you. But
Okay.
um, Daring Greatly by Brene Brown.
Daring greatly.
Yeah,
Daring greatly. Makes it faster. Brene Brown, how do you spell it?
Brene Brown, Brown.
Already. Gotcha.
Yeah, check those out.
Definitely, man.
They're both pretty easy reads too, and because I've got, like I said, I've got the stack of books over here. So these are, a lot of them are really good. I've gotten pretty good at making sure I don't read bad stuff anymore.
Okay.
But then I've got like 6 books that sit right up behind where the camera is here and behind the computer, and those are like those are my Bible.
Right.
Like I can pick them up and read them, and anytime I read them, they're different. So that's the way that I choose to have my faith guided, I guess would be the way I would put that.
Mhm.
The other question I have before I get into maybe the hardest question of the show.
Okay. I think I read about that in your what you would call it. Like
Yeah.
you wait to drop it on us to the end to see how we react. Yeah.
If people want to follow you and connect with you, where do they do that? What do they type in? That kind of thing.
Definitely, man. So you could I'm on as far as music is concerned,
Yeah.
I'm on all platforms, Pandora, Spotify, Apple Music at K.Cartel. Disclaimer, like I've been putting up a lot of tracks,
Yep.
but I guess there's somebody else in the world who happened to have that name and he got like 2 tracks up, but you will definitely know the difference between the 2 of us. You would definitely know the difference between it, but you can find me at K.Cartel and follow me on all those platforms. On Instagram, I am at K.Cartel 94. Just the year I was born after Cartel. On Twitter, I just started up a Twitter account because the old one had to go, just had to die, because you could just be exposed to some things that you shouldn't be exposed to.
Yeah.
So you can find me there at Cartel K94. So it's K.Cartel, but it's Cartel K94. On Twitter, on Facebook, it's gonna be my personal Facebook until I get a business one up. But Keane Carter Reaves, I don't know if you see it right here on my anybody that's watching this, you see Keane Carter Reaves, you can type me up, add me as a friend, man. I'm real relational, man, real down to earth. And you can follow me on all these platforms. I'm working on websites, I'm working on all these other things to get everything else out there. So as I pray for that and that comes along, you know, that'll happen and we can stay in touch. But those are definitely Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You can reach me there, and all platforms, streaming platforms, you can reach me there as well.
Nice.
And cool. YouTube, follow my page on YouTube, which is the same thing, K.Cartel. Yeah,
pretty much like open up any website, type K.Cartel, you're gonna find
it. Yeah, that's the gist of it, man. That's the gist.
So last question, if you were to give anybody 1 or 2 lines advice on learning, getting better at stuff, what would that be?
Okay, cool. 2 lines on learning. The first thing I would say is the of God is the beginning of wisdom, right?
Say that again.
The fear of God is the beginning of wisdom.
Okay.
That's one thing. And the second thing is to be humble and know that you cannot know it all. And I think those are 2 important things. And I say that because with humility, you won't be quick to shun anything else, right? But you would at least listen to it, let it filter out, and you can take what's good, you can leave what's bad. You know what I'm saying? And I think that helps to growing in your learning, right? Because we can't all know it all. So being humble, having an open ear and listening, man, listening is key. It says to be slow to speak and be quick to listen, you know? So that would be my advice.
Very cool. And I'm really glad you wrapped it up like that. It really puts a nice bow on it, because that's exactly kind of the message that I think you've been conveying almost the whole time, is a large amount of humility and a really interesting story and approach. And honestly, the conversation was everything I thought it would be. And
man, that's a blessing.
Yeah. You hit everything just how I wanted it to be hit. So I appreciate that a lot. And
truly.
I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, man. Hey, Ken, I appreciate you having me, man. And I just want anybody who's coming across this to understand, like I don't want to sit here and say I wasn't always like this, because I kind of was, but I know that it doesn't have as much to do with me as it has to do as much with the person that I put my trust and my faith in, and how he organizes and kind of changes your spirit and changes your heart to be that kind of meek and that light and that presence that people will want to be around. So just a quick word, man, that anybody watching this, man, if you see who I am, and if it's intriguing to you, if you are, you know what I'm saying, I don't know, interested, curious, or whatever the case is, it's because of the person of Jesus Christ, man. Like, I just have to say that, because I wouldn't be authentically myself if I left that part of it. Like, I'm telling you, he's like 99.99% of who I am today. And so all glory goes to God. And he could do it for whoever, the most wretched, the most meanest, the most like ill-hearted, ill-mannered. If he shows up and knocks on the door of your heart, he could do it for you, man. So I just, Ken, I thank you for having me here. I thank you for giving me this platform to even be able to share my testimony and my story. I'll be praying for whoever comes across this. What do you call your organization again?
The Boost Institute is the organization. The show is Real Learning with Real People.
Man, listen, the Boost Institute and Real Learning with Real People, right?
Yeah. Man,
listen, I'm excited for y'all. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for what you're doing. I'm glad that you are doing this, that you know, tapping into different people's lives and asking these kind of questions. And man, I see growth, man. It's gonna be growth. I'm excited, and I'm honored that I could be one of the first ones, second, third, whatever, it don't matter what number, here. Man, I really don't take this lightly. And I was super excited when you hit me up on Instagram, man. So this has been a blessing to me. And I pray that it's been a blessing to you. And I'm excited to see what you do. Because when you become big, I could look and hey, listen, man, me and him we got a couple of episodes. If you scroll down the page, we got a couple of episodes, man. But Ken, man, you truly being a blessing. And you're being a light, man. You shedding some light, man, because ain't no telling who gonna come across these kind of things and be able to relate, you know, and maybe it might encourage them and help them to get back up on their feet. Just like how we said, you mix the bad times with the good. I forgot the words you used specifically.
Yeah, struggle and passion. Yeah.
Right. Struggle and passion, and this is what comes out of it, man. So we all deal with that. But Ken, man, I'm gonna be praying for you. You know what I'm saying? Jesus is still there. You know what I'm saying? Whenever, you know. But yeah, man, the Lord is good, and he brought us together for such a time as this, man. And I appreciate you, and I appreciate him, and I'm excited to see what you're gonna do in your future, man. Don't forget about me, man. Yeah. Don't forget about me, brother.
No, I'm not. I can't even build too much on that. So I'll just say thank you.
Yeah, no problem, man. It's been great. It's been amazing. It's been amazing, man. I'm super psyched. I actually got a studio session in like 2 or 3 hours, and having this kind of energy,
yeah, man,
you know, already, and just having this is just gonna be fuel. So just know that my next tracks that I drop, I'm gonna tell you the most specific. Just know that you had if you hear a fluctuation in my voice, just know that came from this meeting. You know what I'm saying? I was already hyped. But man, Ken, I appreciate you, my brother.
You gotta think about that title, struggle and passion. Just
definitely.
There you go. Hit that.
Hey, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you. Cool. Definitely going in the book somewhere in these notes so I can put that out, man. Featuring Ken. Hey, I ain't gonna lie. I might go ahead and look through the recording and take excerpts. You see, I took an excerpt for Ease My Mind.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So maybe we got a track coming up in the future, man, featuring man. But God bless you, my brother. I'm praying for you. I pray for anybody that comes across this and anybody that's going through. You have to mix your struggles with passion. And it's possible. It's capable. And I would even go as far as to say, have faith. Keep the faith, you know? Yeah. But thank you, Ken, man. I love you, my brother. I truly love you, man.
Yeah, take care.
Definitely, man. Have a good one.
sure you subscribe wherever you get podcasts or to this YouTube channel to hear our weekly episodes.